Okay, so hello everybody. I never thought that I would do an actual YouTube video, and I hope this is my first and last because I hope I never have something this pressing to say ever again. Um, but I thought I'd do this YouTube video because I've been really frustrated by the dialogue that's been going on around kind of this whole issue of Muslims in America. I just don't think there's anyone actually saying what needs to be said, so I'm going to kind of do this in the style of the one person who uses passionate rhetoric maybe on the left out there right now. I'm going to do my very own special comment for you all, and maybe we'll get 12 views. I didn't even shave my stupid looking mustache, so there you go. So tonight, as promised to my boyfriend, I will begin and end the show with a special comment. Media, and particularly right-wing media in the past few weeks, have been kind of throwing the question out there, is Barack Obama a Muslim? And kind of with this question has been bouncing back and forth, and there have been several articles discussing, are Americans today willfully believing something that's clearly and factually untrue? And why? Right, willfully believing clear untruths is nothing new in this country. This isn't a country where you have an entire conservative legal doctrine that's built on the idea that a document that defined black people as 3/5 of a human and that denied women the right to vote is infallible. This is a country where for a decade we've been denying collectively and in terms of our policy the obvious scientific truths about global warming. This is a country where people still actually believe that George W. Bush was elected in 2000, where people tout the truth of the trickle-down economy, where WMDs brought us into a war, and we had an entire 8-year presidency shrouded in truthiness, where academics who try, although not necessarily always as hard or as well as they should, but try to study the world around us and inform us of kind of the inherent truths of our culture and society, are constantly disregarded as elites and as know-it-alls. This is a country where we have a long history, actually, of ignoring and denying truths, as long as it doesn't fit into your political economic ideology. So to me, none of this Obama is un-American, Obama is Muslim, none of it is terribly surprising or novel. This notion that we as Americans have only recently become so unscientific, so willing to believe clear and obvious untruths, I think is both misleading and also not quite accurate. The question that's being asked over and over again is Obama a Muslim? In the public sphere, 20% or so of the American public doesn't believe that Obama is a Christian, which he says he is. They think he is actually a Muslim. It's a question we actually know the answer to, and I don't find it particularly interesting or informative. I do, however, think that there's another question that all of this brings up that is actually really interesting and informative. I think that the much more interesting question, America, is not, is Obama a Muslim, but what if he were a Muslim? And I'm going to ask that again because I think it's critically important. What if Obama were a Muslim? And I actually haven't heard anyone ask this question at all, and I think it really cuts to the heart of the problem I'm having with this entire debate. If Obama were a Muslim, would he be any less qualified to be the president of this country? Or would he actually suddenly become a member of a shadowy cabal bent on world domination, right? I know there are huge gulfs between the myths we believe about America and how we as a country actually treat one another. But the idea that a person is fully formed regardless of race or creed or religion, well, that's an American ideal that I would like to believe in. And being a Muslim and being brown, well, that would make Obama entirely the other, right? And the problem with being an other is that humanity is questioned. The very sense of makes you a human. And when one's humanity is not fully formed or accepted, any sort of demonization is possible. We saw this, this is the story of colonialization. It took over half of the world by denying entire people's humanity. This was the history of slavery and the exploitation of the American Indian, and this continues to be a problem with the dialogue between Palestine and Israel, is that we are defining people as other and therefore not as human as we are. So let's call a spade here. I know that the right kind of makes fun of the left for saying everything is racist when it might not be. But the right calls all sorts of things true when they clearly aren't. And saying that a man can't or shouldn't be president because he's a Muslim and or an Arab, that's racist or bigoted, right? Like, a man can't have his job because of his ethnicity or religion? If you believe the myths we tell about ourselves, that sounds terribly un-American. However, if you look in our history, this seems as American as anything else, right? So the truth of the matter of this, it really doesn't matter whether Obama's a Muslim or not. I don't give a shit how often he goes to church, or that he doesn't go to church as much as Bush or Clinton. The only pertinent question is do you believe his policies? Do you think he's doing an actual good job as the president? And do you trust him as a leader? But questions like the ones we've been asking about him, questions that bring up his Americanness or try to paint him as an other, well, those type of questions tell us very little about Obama because we actually know the truth. They do, however, manage to reflect how little progress we've made as a nation to correct our ills, to right our wrongs, and to rid ourselves, personally and collectively, of racism and bigotry. They don't tell us about Obama America, they tell us about ourselves. So on that somber note, good night, America, and good luck.